Hello, it's Katie Coates. Today we are going to be making this penguin that can wave, and this tutorial is offered by freecodecamp. So let's get started. We're going to be building a happy penguin, and to do that we're going to copy this HTML boilerplate from the freecodecamp blog, paste it here. I'm going to get rid of this third meta element and then rename the title to be Flappy Penguin. Then we also need to change this to say styles.css with this S here to match the file name that freecodecamp has for us. Next step. Target the body element and set the background to a linear gradient and go 45 degrees clockwise, starting at this RGB value. Let me paste it here. And then we're going to end at this second RGB value that I will also paste in there, and then we're going to end it with a semicolon, and let's check. Yes, and now we have our beautiful winter sky. And then we need to remove the elements margin and padding. Great. And then we need to put the width to 100% and the height to 100 viewport height. I know there's a difference between viewport height and percent, but I don't remember it exactly off of the top of my head, so that is something I will go and check in the documentation later, and I suggest you doing as well if you also don't remember. And then we're going to go to step 5. We need to get rid of scroll bars. Hide scroll bars CSS. Let's see how to do that. So to hide both of the scroll bars, we use overflow hidden. To hide just the vertical scroll bar, we would use overflow Y, and to hide just the horizontal scroll bar, we would use overflow X, but we want to hide both of them, so we're going to copy this overflow hidden property, and let's check, and that worked. Great. Now let's go to step 6. We need to create a div in here with the class of ground. Great. And we're going to go to step 7, targeting the ground class. We're going to set its width to take 100% of the viewport width and the height to 400 pixels. Let's check. That worked. Okay, here on step 8, we need to create a background with a linear gradient at 90 degrees with our first color, this RGB value I'll paste in here, and then ending at the second RGB value that I will paste in here. We put our semicolon at the end, and I'm not really seeing, oh, I pasted the same color twice, that's why I did not see the gradient. So if I paste in our second color, we should see the gradient here. Wonderful, let's check. Okay, step 9, we need to make it the third in our stacking content layout, if that makes sense. So we're setting the z-index to 3. The z-index decides how the elements will look displayed on the page. So an element with, I believe 1 is going to be the top layer, and then the bigger the number, the further back it goes. So we're going to set the z-index to 3 and the position to absolute. Actually, let me check that. I want to make sure. Z-index greater number. So, and the minimum, the number. So the higher the integer, the higher the element will be in the stacking order. Okay. Okay. So the bigger the number, the closer it is to the top. Okay. Position absolute. And next step, our ground element. We're going to create a div with a class of penguin above the ground element. And this div is going to contain our Flappy penguin. Great. Let's go to step 11, target the penguin class element and set its width to, width to 300 pixels and the height to 300 pixels as well. Great. Step 12, we're going to use the margin property to horizontally center the penguin element. So we don't care about the vertical axis, so we're going to put 0 in there, and then we're going to put auto so that it horizontally centers it, and then we're going to put margin top to be 75 pixels. Let's see if that's correct. Yes. Step 13, we need to create some scenery. We need to add 2 mountains. So we're going to create a div with the class of left mountain. And we'll put our closing div at the end. Let's check it. Wonderful. Step 14, we're going to target this left mountain div. Fix my typo. And then we're going to set its width to be 300 pixels, the height to be 300 pixels as well. Set the background to a linear gradient. Starting at, we don't have a degree we need to put in, so we're starting at this first RGB value. We're going to put a comma, space, and paste in this second RGB value. Then we're going to make sure to put a semicolon at the end of it all. Looks like we have our beautiful horizontal linear gradient right there. Let's check if it's right, and it is. And step 15, we need to prevent the mountain from pushing the ground element. So we're going to put the position to absolute. Let's check. Yes, so that worked. That prevented it from taking up space in the page layout. And step 16, to make the mountain look more like a mountain, we can use the skew transform function. So skew, it takes 2 arguments. The first being an angle to shear the x-axis, the second being an angle to shear the y-axis by. So we're going to skew it by 0 degrees, and then 44 degrees on the y-axis. Does this work? No. Okay, so transform, skew, okay. Transform, skew, 0 degrees, 44 degrees. Now it makes so much sense. I mean, it takes 2 arguments, duh. Let's check. Yeah, I can see when the code switched right there. Great. Step 17, set the stack level, so that's our Z index again. And such that it remains directly behind the ground element. I believe we graded the ground element a 1, so this one should be a 2. Yes. Because 1 is going to be closer to the top. To overlap the mountain and ground elements better, give the mountain a margin top of 100 pixels. Give 100 pixels to the margin top, and the ground element a margin top of -58. Margin top, -58 pixels. Let's see what that does. There we go. Now it looks like a beautiful triangle shape the way it's covered up. And let's go to our next step. 19. Give the effect of a mountain range. So we need to add another mountain. So we're going to create another div. This one is going to have the class of back mountain. We have our left mountain, and now we have our back mountain. Okay. Nothing's going to show up yet because, of course, we do not have anything inside of that div. So we're going to do that now. We're going to target this back mountain and set its width to 300 pixels, the height to 300 pixels, then the background to a linear gradient. And in there, we're going to start at this first color, this RGB value, put a comma, paste in this second RGB value. Then we're going to put in our semicolon at the end. Is this right? Mountain a width of... Oop. I'm wondering, the code looks a little bit strange over there. Does that fix it? I don't know. It still looks strange, but it passed. So obviously we have something to fix over here on our next steps. So we're going to set the position of the back mountain to prevent it from taking up space. So let's set that to absolute. And there we go, that worked. You can see once you set it to absolute, everything snapped back into place. It looks a little bit better. But we still have to give that mountain a nice shape instead of that cube shape. So the stack level, we have to set the Z index, and it has to be behind the left mountain. So I believe the ground was 1, this left mountain was 2, so we need to give this back mountain a Z index of 3? No, a Z index of 1. Okay, so I have my Z indexes confused. Let me see. Okay, our left mountain has a Z index of 2, giving our back mountain 1. Okay, so the greater number is going to be on top. Okay, so that makes sense. Now we can go to step 23. Rotate the back mountain element by 45 degrees clockwise. So transform, I believe, 45 degrees? I'm missing something. What am I missing? Then give it a left, well, we'll just keep moving. Give it a left property of 110 pixels and a top property of 225 pixels. I believe my transform is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, but let's check. Transform property to rotate. Okay. Rotate. Let's try rotate 45 degrees. I knew I was missing my parentheses. I need to put something in parentheses when you use transform. So there we go. Rotate 45 degrees. Boom. Now our mountain looks like a little mountain back there. I love it. Step 24 to finish the background. Add a sun by creating a new div element immediately after the background and give it a class of sun. There we go. And we'll put that closing div at the end of it. And nothing will show up yet because we haven't given it any properties. We need to target this sun class element, give it a width of 200 pixels, a height of 200 pixels, and a background color of yellow. Great, that's step 25. So we're going to set the position to be absolute, I believe, to prevent it from taking up space. Yes, that looks right. And then we're going to set the border radius to create a circle, which is 50%. If we set something to 50% border radius, that creates that circular shape. And now we're ready to go to step 27. Position the sun in the top right corner of the screen such that 75 pixels of its top and right edges are off the screen. So minus 75 pixels should put 75% of it off the screen. And then from the right, negative 75 pixels as well. Let's see. I think that's right. Great. Step 28. Our penguin will consist of two main sections, the head and the body. Oh my gosh, when I said penguin there, that reminded me of that one actor who can't say penguin from that documentary. The Sherlock Holmes guy who was like, penguin. Anyway, so we're going to create two new div elements. The first is going to have a class of penguin head. And then the second is going to have a class of penguin body. Let's check. Great. Step 29 is talking about stack level. That's the Z index. So that appears in front of the ground element. Let's go back and look at our ground element and see what Z index we gave it. We gave it a Z index of 3, so it needs to appear in front of the ground index. So I believe we need to give it a 4, and then set its position to relative. Great, that worked. On to step 30, we need to target the penguin head element and give it a width half of its parents. Make sure we spell width right. Put 50%, and then a height of 45%. Set the background to a linear gradient at 45 degrees, starting at gray with an A and ending at this RGB value that I'm going to paste in there. Make sure we put our semicolon. That looks pretty much like penguin colors. Let's see. Awesome. And on to step 31. Most penguins do not have a square head. I think almost all penguins do. And give a slight oval head to our penguin by setting the radius of the top corner, so border radius, to 70% for the top left and top right. And then for the bottom left and bottom right, we set those to 65%. Let's see what that looks like. Looks like a little bit of a wide oval, almost just circular, but not quite. Then we're going to target this penguin body element and give it a width of 35%, 53%, and a height of 45%. Then set the background to a linear gradient at 45 degrees. This first RGB color at 0%. We're just going to slap 0% in before our comma. And then an RGB value for our second color, starting at 25% of the way through. And we'll put that 25 in there before our comma. And then we're going to put, why did I copy and paste white? And that's, our white starts at 60 or 7% of the way through. And then I'm not going to put the semicolon there. I'm putting my semicolon after those colors. And you can see we have 0% to about 25% this color, and then white going all the way through. Oh, a width of 53%, but found, oh, we should have spelled everything correctly too. So now that width is spelled correctly, there we go. And we need to change the shape of our penguin body. So we're going to give it the border radius with a value of 80% for the top left and right corners, and 100% for the bottom left and right corners. And look at that cute little penguin body shape. Adorable. And target all descendants of the .penguin class element and give them a position So this is targeting the penguin class element. We're going to target all of the descendants with that star element. That star element can target all properties on your web page, but because we're using .penguin to target the penguin class element, and then we're putting the star element, we're targeting all of the descendants of the penguin class element. And we're going to give them a position of absolute. Now, if I had just the star placed like this would be targeting all of the elements on my page. Or if I had this penguin class element, and then let's say in this penguin class I had another div called eyes, I could put eyes up here, and that would be targeting the eyes that are within the penguin class element. But we're not doing that. That was just an example. And so now, okay, step 35, we're going to target this penguin head element, and we're going to make it 10% from the top, so top 10%, and then 25% from the left, so left 25%, and let's check that. Great. Hey, it's Katie. Subscribe so you can see when part 2 for this Flappy Penguin gets uploaded, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.